Well, this morning, I think we'll probably cover one of the biggest topics as you start to, those who are already in their careers or getting ready to go to their careers, and just being in cybersecurity all the time, man, it was always tough because it never goes off, right? You never turn it off. It's on all the time. And today we're going to talk about work-life balance, the cost of pursuing your career and that work-life balance, and how do you ensure and try to find that place that works well for you so that you don't go crazy. You spend time with your family, but you're also able to continue to move forward in your career. So today, we'll have a great panel today. Mary, going to talk about her career, what she's done, her work-life balance as well. We have Tylisa, and we have Angelique. And so what I want to do is kick it off is that, as we start to go down this path and we get into the mode of building up our careers, and we're heads down, going forward, and typically those who are with us, family or friends or whatever, kind of lose out because we kind of disappear. And then when we look up, it could be a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, and you missed a lot. So I'll ask each of the panel members, Mary, how did you handle that work-life balance in starting out your career?
Well, before children, right? I was in the FBI, and I came out of law school and went into the FBI. So the FBI was really my first real job, right? In the space, cybersecurity space, because I investigated cybercrime. And so at the very beginning, I was single. I didn't have no children. I was, doing my thing. And then I had my first child in the FBI. And then, one of the things that myself and my ex-husband really wanted to ensure is that our children saw us, right, on a regular basis. So we literally worked opposite schedules. He worked at the graveyard shift, and I worked during the day. My son, he didn't stay with anyone but me and his dad for over a year. And so the FBI, there was some stuff that I was doing, and I'm being recorded, so we'll leave it at that. But there was some stuff that I was doing within the FBI that, it had to get done, right? Those search warrants, those things that, going in and out of places. You saw the pause, didn't you? Going in and out of different places and being in those spaces. At the very beginning when I was a new mom, it just was important to me to have my kids know who I was, right? And then after that, once I went in corporate America, Mackenzie will be, 18 this year. So I've been a single mom for 17 years, right? And for those 17 years, I went into an office environment maybe 2 years out of the 17, right? And so that the fact that we have these careers that allow us to work from home, that helped out, especially when you have your young single mom and your child gets sick. And then it's like, okay, I got to stop. In the office, you got to stop and go. And I'm at home. I'll get back. I'll log back in when I get back. I had that freedom and that flexibility and was blessed enough to be able to do that. So the pursuing part, and as I started to pursue my career, came at the same time that I was as a single mom. And we've made moves. We've lived different places. But my kids always saw me. And that was the priority for me, for them to be able to see me every single day, for me to cook dinner every single day, and be there and build that relationship. And you guys see the result of it. Mackenzie, shot her 3-point last night and won the game for us.
Well, that's awesome. So I really messed up as a facilitator. I assumed everybody knows who everybody is, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. So I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to tell a little bit about themselves and where they are in their career, so that we level set and then have that conversation. So obviously, Ms. Mary, give a little bit about your background. I think everybody know who you are, what it is.
Y'all don't need to. Y'all don't need
Yeah.
to do y'all.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Tylisa.
Tylisa.
Tylisa Shields. So I'll go into my story, but give you some nuggets there. And also, since we're being recorded, I'm here speaking on behalf of myself and not any of my previous or former or current employers. So basically, for me, my career path was a little bit different, a little traditional. Went to undergrad at Grambling State in Louisiana, got a bachelor's in computer science. Then I went on to graduate school at Carnegie Mellon University, where I received a master's in information technology with a specialization in information security. After that, I went to Boise, Idaho, of all places, where I worked at Hewlett-Packard for 4.5 years, then went on to work for Apple for about 9.5 years in the Bay Area. And so for me, looking at work-life balance, it was difficult in the fact that I hadn't been home in North Carolina since I was 17 years old. I was so career-focused that I honestly didn't even look at relationships until I was in my 30s, and I got married at 33, right? I'll be 40 in September, so just kind of give you some timeline there. And so thinking about that, when I would go home, I would go to North Carolina for funerals or holidays. And so when I look back at all the pictures, it's either a holiday or somebody had just passed. And I missed the growing up of my nieces and nephews. I missed important graduation ceremonies and just those things that time can't get you back, you know what I mean? And so for me, I was like, okay, it's time for me to change my focus and put my family first. And so my husband and I, we decided to relocate back to North Carolina and be closer to family. So that's just one thing to think about as you're going on and you're pursuing your career. How much of that time are you taking away from other things in pursuit of what you really want? So that's just a little bit about me, and later on I'll touch on a little bit more.
Okay. Angeline?
Hi. Hi, I'm Angelique Garg, and I've also had a career arc that's a little different from Mary's and Tylisha's. I am an immigrant to this country, and I had this focus that I wanted to succeed in this country, and I dedicated myself to my career, to academics, and then to my career, and I became a lawyer. And I knew going in, when I was going into this big New York City law firm, that I'd have zero work-life balance. It was all about learning the trade and working all-nighters, 3 nights in a row, weekends, total unpredictability, right? My life was mortgaged to the firm. And I made that choice because that's the choice that I wanted to make at that time. Because I wanted to learn and I wanted to succeed, and that was my focus. I was in a relationship, and in fact, the funniest thing is, when my now ex-husband wanted to propose to me, I actually had to go to the senior associates on the deals I was working on, because it was over a long weekend, to say, I'm going to be proposed to, and I need these 3 days off. Is that, acceptable? Because you're not going to be able to reach me, and I'm not going to be able to come back into the office. That's the extent to which this was, just to give you an understanding. And so with that, I knew myself the way that I work, and that's an important thing. You need to know yourself. Your important why. Why are you doing this? Because your life and energy is precious. What is your motivation for doing whatever it is that you want to do? Where are your priorities? And I knew myself, which is that I cannot be pregnant and have a child while I'm at the firm, because I don't take care of myself, I don't sleep well, I don't eat well. Mm-hmm. So I made a decision that I wanted to go in-house, and that's when my husband and I would start a family. And that's exactly what I did. So you have to figure out for yourself what is it that you want at any stage of your life, and every stage is going to be different. And one of the things, the fallacies of work-life balance, is that you can have balance. It's more of a seesaw. There are times when you prioritize your career, and then there's times when you prioritize other things in your life. Because especially now where we are reachable 24/7 with Blackberries and no more Blackberries. I'm dating myself, right, with cell phones. But I remember being handed a Blackberry at the firm, and I remember that is the beginning of the end, right? And then having reinvented myself as a coach and an entrepreneur, I know there's many entrepreneurs here, you have to create your own work-life balance because now you're in charge of your life, and there's that pressure in the back of your head to never turn it off, right?
Yeah, it's cool. I'll give a little bit about myself. I'm not a lawyer, and I play one during the week though, on TV only. Not just kidding. But so I had a little different. Very similar backgrounds. I started off at IBM in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. Moved to Cisco, Dell EMC, and for me, I was on an expat in Australia for 4.5 years, and then Singapore. So I was way away from everybody else, and had no choice but to be immersed into work and where it came from that perspective. Then I said, I'm gonna stop working as much, and I said I'm gonna become an entrepreneur, and that become even worse because I don't have one boss. I got a whole lot of bosses, right? Called customers and clients. But for me is figuring out once to a point where you hit where it needs to be. That seesaw and that balance is where it comes from. Of saying, because you're always saying how much is enough, and you continue to go. And I'm one of those quintessential overachievers, right? It's like, I'm like that guy after we win the Super Bowl. It's like, hey, where you going, to Disneyland? No, I'm saying we're going to get the next Super Bowl, right? Just continue to go. So I encourage, just like everyone here says, is you got to find your why, find that balance, and make sure that you prioritize what's important and try to guard those family times in those situations when it comes to that. It's definitely possible. So we talk about work-life balance, and some people say, hey, it's a myth and how you do it. Even in that situation, what are some of the tools that you use to help prioritize your day to give you that work-life balance to be able to say, hey, I'm shutting it off at 5 o'clock? Because when you work from home, actually, it's kind of a Jedi mind trick. It's like, hey, we let you work from home, you do what you want to do, but you sit in front of that computer till 10 o'clock at night. It never goes off, right? What do you use, and how do you govern yourself to ensure that I got a cutoff time to go do something else for more productive? What are some of the things that you use to do that?
So I'll go first. I'm new to the work from home club, so yay me. Just by show of hands, how many people work from home? Oh, wow. Okay, I should have talked to y'all before then. But since I was new to work from home, I constantly felt myself sitting down, just focused, not really getting up and eating or things of that nature. And so I started setting little calendar reminders for 10 minutes every hour. Just get up, walk around, do something different. I created a Kanban board of all the tasks that I needed to complete for the day, whether it was for work or my personal life. And that way it helped me keep track of where I am throughout the day and what I needed to be doing. And one of the most important things for me is I needed to start focusing on my health, right? Your body will give you signs that it's in distress. And for me, I was not focusing on that. I was only focusing on my career until I had some health issues, and excuse me, I became like super overweight. Look, I'm still a little chunky now, all right, but I lost over 50 pounds over the last year because I needed to make sure, thank you, to focus on that. And so my advice to you all is not only just like creating a schedule for your personal self and the daily duties that you have, but every 6 months, making sure you're going to get your physicals, making sure you use that $20 copay to go ahead and get your blood work done so you understand where your baseline is. All these things are so important. Also, talk to a therapist. Like, make sure that whatever you're going through, you can talk to someone, help you decompress, help you focus through some things. Call Mary. Okay, text her first. She might not pick up the phone. Or whoever is in your circle, your board of directors. I got my twin Tony here. Like, make sure you have those individuals in your corner that you can continue to bounce things off of to make the day go smoother, make your life a little bit smoother, and ensure that you continue to stay healthy.
I love it. Ms. Mary?
You know, I was sitting here thinking about when I ran the Security Operations Center, and you guys know, I was in incident response and ran the SOC, so that's 24/7, all day, every day. You're on call. And I remember telling my team, I said, listen, okay, and this is what, you make these decisions and determinations. I said, if you're looking for me between 6 and 7, I'm with my family. We're having dinner. I said, I'm available to you after 7 o'clock. I said, but this hour, this time is for them, right? And so that's one of the things that I did because, you know, 3 o'clock on, let's see, 3 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Eve, well, New Year's Day, I get, you know, the phone rings, I gotta pick that up, right? And so you have to create ways to guard your time, whatever that time is. Working out has always been important to me to this day. I wake up to a workout, not when I'm here, I'm sleeping, but I'll wake up to a workout every day, and that's my time. That's how I wake up in the morning. So creating these healthy habits to say, oh, I understand that my career may ask me to do more. If I don't work out, y'all wouldn't love me as y'all do. Y'all wouldn't, because I would not be a very nice person, right? And so those are the things. You have to know yourself enough to know what you need to give yourself, and then take that time out and guard that time fiercely. Every time, you know, I have to have a meeting that's working, I'm like, y'all messing with my workout time? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes I don't even take meetings. I block off my calendar, so.
Sure. Angela?
So for me, I'm shameless about blocking my calendar. That's what I do. I do it for myself. I'll just put in a chunk. I literally say block for a walk, right? And because I'm an entrepreneur and I don't answer to anyone other than my clients, I get to control when I start my day and when I end my day in terms of when they can book meetings with me, right, or sessions with me. So I will block off the morning time because my meditation practice is really important to me. So I have to start that way. That helps me ground. So you have to find it, as everybody's saying, Mary has a workout, and Tylisha also is focused on her health, is taking care of yourself, because unless you take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else, and you can't function at your optimal. And a lot of times what I come across with my clients, because everybody is a high achiever, right? And one of the things is guilt and shame about taking care of yourself. They feel like I'm being selfish. Anybody feel that way here? I'm seeing some people nodding. Yeah, so it may be selfish, but if you don't do that, you're actually being more selfish because you're not able to show up for the people in your life or anyone else with your full self if you're not taking care of yourself.
That's good stuff. And what you see, I live by the thing that people respect what you protect. And what you're seeing is they're protecting their time and where it comes from. I start my day off with prayer, right? First thing in the morning, that's where I'm at, praying, Lord, please let me just get through this day and not have to call Mary for bail money. But then the other piece that I think is really cool is I set up, there's times of the day where you know that's your super time, right? That's the time where you're the most productive. And those are the times that you should block off on your calendar, and you should guard that and let no one get into that area. You know what time of day it is, because that's where you're going to get the most work done. That's where everything is going to happen, and you guard that. And because I'm an entrepreneur, and I have clients, and if I don't guard that time and I send them an open email and say, give me a time tomorrow that you want to meet, 100% of the time they pick that time. I don't even give it as an option. Hey, yeah, we can meet tomorrow, but we can meet at 3 or 4 or 2:30. I didn't say no, but I put it on my time, not their time. And then the last piece is that we use a method in our office for all of our guys called the Eisenhower method. Pick a method. If you remember what the Eisenhower method is, it's a 4-quadrant method that says do now, do later, delegate, or don't do. If you're really busy, that means you're spending too much time in quadrant 3 and 4. Please look at that. It's something really cool to figure out how to guard your time and do what it is. And the main thing I love up here is mental health, right? You heard that. Spend some time working on you, because if you're not good, there's not much you can do for anyone else, right? That's good stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Can we talk about financial health?
Sure. There you go.
So I know a lot of people early in their careers. I won't say raise your hands this time because we're being recorded, but just say if you agree. All right. So say for instance, now that you're in this more lucrative career, do you have people coming to you for handouts?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So basically, I'm like, why am I working so hard, but everybody else is reaping the benefits of it?
Yes.
I created a separate account, and I put $100 or $200 per paycheck into that account. When people ask to borrow money, I'll use that account to remove the money. If they paid me back, I put the money back into that account. If that account goes empty, I'm broke. I don't have it. If that account is still having money at the end of the year, I spend it on myself for a vacation, start over again at the beginning of the year. So you're working hard, you're making this money, make sure that you spend it wisely or save it and do what you need to do and not focus on the needs of everybody else around you.
You still giving people money, girl? Listen to me. My initial answer is no, unless you can prove to me otherwise. Because you're absolutely right in that we have what is called in the community survivor's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And so we feel as if just because we've worked hard that, you know, our less fortunate relatives have a stake. And I look at it and I say, well, wait a minute. You had the same opportunities that I did. Now, I will tell you this. I know I'm being recorded, so don't tell my mama. I live in Texas for a reason. I'm from Ohio. All my family is in Ohio. I'm just going back to Cincinnati, Ohio, because my niece is graduating from college. Because that prevents people from asking me stuff. Anybody live away from their family and they So for that very same reason, because drama comes when people can drive over to your house. You got to get on the plane for this drama.
That's right.
You got to come all the way down here. Y'all can't afford that drama because y'all looking for money from me. All right, that's how I feel about it.
That's so true. I like that, the survivor's thing. That is true. I like it. So, as we talked about work-life balance, and we got a lot of people working from home, and so what ends up happening in that situation is that there's this blurred line of working from home and I'm doing what I want to do, and not really taking advantage of the opportunity being there, and then having that out of sight, out of mind situation. How do you deal with working from home, being productive, but you're not in the mix? You're kind of out of sight, out of mind. How do you continue to move forward in your career, finding that balance? Because you got to work a little harder to be noticed and knowing what you got done. How do you address that, and how do you maneuver that situation?
Well, I would say you get into the line of sight of people. Mm-hmm. And there's many different ways to do that. Right? When I was working, for the most of my career, I was working in person, but we did have remote and hybrid when I was at Citibank. And one of the things that you can do is get in front of senior leadership by making presentations on key projects that cut through things that affect other areas of the business. And you have to be your own advocate because people aren't thinking about your project in that way, that it has relevance for others. But get in front of people and go to the office. Go and if you are working remotely, even if you have to pay out of your own pocket, it depends on your priorities again, right? But if you want people to notice you, pay out of your own pocket to go and visit the office once in a while, and make sure when you do that, you line up meetings, coffees, whatever it is, with the people you want to have visibility with, and know what you want to ask for. And when I say ask for, it doesn't mean you want to ask for a favor. It's, oh, I'd really like to work on projects like this. I'd really like the opportunity to work for you, right? And explain why you want to have an opportunity to work for them, not just because you want them to see you, but there's something about them that you want to learn from them. So there's different ways to do that, and like you're doing here, coming to a conference. It's really helpful to get outside of your own company. I made that mistake because I didn't know, right? I was trying to figure out my own path. I didn't have anybody to mentor me. I just thought you just keep your head down, you work at your company, you progress. But a friend dragged me to a conference, my first legal conference, and I saw that there's a bigger world. You get to know who your competition is. You get to know what people are thinking about in the industry, and you make friends.
Yeah.
And that network, it pays off dividends like there's no tomorrow. It's so worth the investment.
I love it. Mary?
Yeah. I was going to say, when you're younger in your career, and this is what I tell the apprentices all the time, you need to go into an office environment to build your reputation. Everybody wants to work remote, right? I see you, Marcus. Everybody wants to work remote, and that's not possible in younger professionals, because you need to build that brand, right? You need to be able to go into the office, network, and see what's going on. And it especially even when you want to get promoted, because how this applies to me is when I was on that CISO track, and we'll talk about this a little later in the other keynote, but when I was trying to get to that CISO track, I had a hard time getting visibility, even though my CISO was a remote worker. I had to be able to build relationships in different field offices so I can get noticed, and he had the right to. Executive leadership, they have the right, they've already proven themselves. But when you're trying to prove yourself, that office environment helps. Now, like I said, I had 2 little ones. And for me, it was more important to be the cog in the wheel and not be on that, running that race, because I was appreciative of the fact that when challenges came, I was able to be there for my children. That's what I sacrificed at that particular point in my career. Yeah. But when you're on that rat race, you just break into cyber, or you're a junior level professional, it's best to go into an office environment, because guess what's going to happen when they have cuts? You're probably going to be the first one to go, because they don't know you like that.
I love it. Talise?
Yeah, for me, it's learning other people's communication methods. The first thing I did with the conversation I had with the director of my new job is ask him, how do you prefer to receive your email communications? He was like, actually, I don't like long emails, which was confirmed by Dee yesterday during our panel. But I said, okay, anytime I send him a message, I'm gonna put a TLDR at the top, and then I'll elaborate at the bottom. He loves that, right? So whoever you're communicating with, understand what their methods are. There are some times where I'm doing user access reviews and I don't hear back from the managers. I ping their butts on Teams, get a response instantly. And so just figure out how to navigate that. The second thing is I have this acronym ABL, always be looking. So I'm always looking for new opportunities as far as like presenting in-house, new opportunities to streamline current processes, new opportunities to be able to connect with individuals that I don't know who are in a different department. So just start taking that approach to build your brand internally and understand exactly what you want to do and how you want to pivot within your career.
So what I heard was that special word called brand. It was repeated several times, right? You have a personal brand that you want to get out. Angeli said, I went to a conference and I networked, right? Networking is big because that's probably where your next opportunity may come from, right? And they're doing it from that perspective. The other one, and Mary said, I had to build relationships outside of my department to do that. What she did is she was building cheerleaders for her to come back and go the other route, right? And going down that path. What I always tell you to do is, I agree with coming up front, being in the office. Being an entrepreneur, you'd be surprised of how many many interviews I do, and the first thing they tell me is, it's got to be remote. They haven't touched the network. They have never worked in cybersecurity. They can barely spell SOC.
S-O-C-K.
But I got to work remote. How do you build that relationship to be able to trust, to train, to understand the culture and where it comes from that perspective? So you got to be in that, and that's a tough one. But after you've done that, you move forward. And if you're in the office, I always tell you that you need to learn how to do skip level manage and manage up, because your manager may not be a great person of managing up. And if you do a skip level interview, that means you interviewing or spending time with your manager's manager to understand what they're understanding, because your manager just may not be that person.
Can I jump in real
Sure.
quick?
Go ahead.
Be careful with that sometimes.
Mhm.
And it is important,
Mhm.
absolutely 100%. But your manager might get mad, so you might want to go to your manager
For sure.
first. Unless the leader routinely has skip level meetings, because there are leaders, and I did it, that go one below just because they want to get there. And I did that with my team, and I've had that done for me, where my boss's boss was like, okay, let's sit down and talk. Those are the types of cultures you actually want.
Yeah.
But I also had a boss that, when I put a meeting on the calendar of her boss, got mad at me, right? And this is when I had gotten to the point in my career that I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna let nobody talk to me any old kind of way. And so she got an immediate response back for that. But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Be careful
For
with
sure.
the skip level.
Yeah, and have those conversations, definitely. The other one that I recommend is a book by a guy named Keith Faraz. It's an old book. It's called Who's Got Your Back? And what his whole premise is that there's meetings that are going on that you don't have access to. You need to have someone in that meeting wearing your T-shirt, saying what you are, who you are. That's why it's important to build those relationships and your brand, so that other people are speaking on your behalf, right? So we talked a lot about working remote, and we talked about working in the office. Tell me how you find that work-life balance, because everything we do sometimes is external to our clients. We have an end client, and they can be very needy. I to the point where, yeah, I need a hug, man. I need some couch time. So how do you deal with my work-life balance? Because you worked in a SOC, and I got 24/7. How do you push back and guard your time without being abrasive or seeing that I'm not doing my job, or it feels like, hey, I should be doing it, or I'm letting them down? How do you do that to ensure that happens? How do you make that happen?
You pick and choose.
Okay.
I mean, again, I go in with all transparency, and even in the employee handbook that I have for Mike Talent, the first thing I say is my kids are the number one thing that is important to me. I will drop anything and everything if they need me, period. End of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's a battle between my babies and work's gonna have to lose. And I find, especially, I've been respected more for setting that particular boundary than anything else. But there are gonna be times you're gonna like, oh God, I gotta answer this. Okay, all right. But that should be a one-off. It can't be every day.
Sure.
And then you're not coming off as abrasive or anything like that when you set your boundaries. You're well respected. I haven't had any issues with setting that kid boundary. I did have an issue when I was trying to get promoted, where I was teaching cybersecurity courses in person at the University of Cincinnati. And my boss sat me aside and was like, Mary, I know this is what you love to do. This is what you do to give back. I said, he's like, but, the powers that be, meaning his executive leadership team, had an issue with it. And I was like, okay. So I had to stop going in person. I still taught remotely, but I had to stop that part of it, and I gave in that part of it, but I still was able to find another way to influence impressionable cybersecurity minds.
Okay. Talisa? I'm sorry, Angela, go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up with what Mary had talked about, boundaries. One of the things that people struggle with, at least my clients that come to me for coaching, is how do I set boundaries? Because it's a challenge for a lot of people to say no. And what we go through in a very deep way is to get to your core values. Because once you identify your core values, it's easy to set those boundaries. And that's why Mary was able to set that boundary, because for her, her family comes first. That's her core value. Once you identify your core values, you are able to then pressure test whatever is coming your way against them to see whether this is something that is a yes or a no for you. And that's how you can set your boundaries. That's how you can give yourself permission, because it will feel so right to set the boundary, and it will feel so wrong to not set that boundary. So I just wanted to make that one point.
That's awesome. Thaisa?
So for me, I make sure that I set things up properly before I set a boundary. For instance, I don't have a work phone now. And it's because when I did, I was always on, constantly. But in order to do that, I need to make sure that people who wanted to contact me still got the information that they would normally contact me for. So that's where the wiki documents come in. That's where any other knowledge bases come in that they can reference. I'm out of office right now. Nobody can reach me. Haven't even turned on my laptop other than to see if my dual monitor will work. What did I do? I made sure that people were prepared. Hey, if this type of request comes in, this is a video on how to address it. And so just make sure that in order to create those boundaries, that you've already set a structure in place so that the castle doesn't fall. Yeah, you have to delegate those responsibilities before you are able to set those boundaries appropriately. Otherwise, it can turn back on you, right? Like, you set these boundaries, but what you needed to fulfill didn't get done. So just be careful with it.
We've talked a lot. This is good stuff. We talked a lot about after I've gotten a job and what I've done from that job and how it goes from that perspective. And we said a couple words, boundaries and core values, right? Those are huge. When you're out looking for that next opportunity or that next company to go to, how important is it for you to know your core values that aligns up with their core values? Because I believe that that will help you mitigate some of this work-life balance. Can you give some ideas on, as you look for new opportunities, new jobs, new relationships, how does those core values line up with what you're looking for to make sure that you're pivoting and playing them off of each other?
Well, that's a great question. One of the things that I do with my clients is something called a career North Star. And what that is there's 3 pillars to it. One is your core values. The other is your core strengths. That's the second pillar. And the third is what you need to thrive at work. And that becomes your compass that you pressure test everything against. So when you look at a job, you know, these are the minimum things that I need to thrive in this job. And it's very detailed, right? It goes to your salary, your benefits, it goes to the environment in which you're working, hybrid, remote, whatever it is, in terms of how much intellectual stimulation and variety you want in the role, how much of collegiality, management support, micromanagers, all of this stuff, you get it really clear in your mind, and then you take a look at whatever role is coming your way to say, is this in alignment with my values? Does this leverage my core strengths? And does it meet my needs for me to be able to thrive in this role? And then it becomes really easy for you to answer the question, is this role, is this job aligned with me? And that includes the career you're on. I've had so many people come to me saying, hey, I don't know if I should continue in this career. I don't know if it's for me. Or I don't know if I should continue in this particular role, and they're ready to quit. And after we have a conversation, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how many of my needs are being met in this current position. But here are the critical ones that aren't. So how do we bring that into your life without sort of blowing up everything you've already worked so hard to achieve? So it's being intentional in that way of getting to know yourself. One of the things I see with high achievers all the time, and I'm a card-carrying member, okay? So I'm not speaking from a pedestal here. I am saying this is true for me as well, is when you're so focused on what other people find of value and delivering that to them, you forget about yourself. You forget about what makes you tick. And doing that, and it doesn't take a lot to do a little bit of a deep dive into connecting with yourself and your who you are, what motivates you, what is it that drives you. When you do that work, you're much more able to create the success you want on your terms.
For sure. Ms. Mary?
And I would say it just depends on where you want to go. Okay, 1, 3, 5, 7, 10-year goals, right? I know Anjali don't like goals and outcomes, but we're gonna give this something, right? But the thing is, I found out that when I had a goal to be a CISO in a 5-year time frame, right? That next role had to be something that was gonna get me where I wanted to go. And now I learned the hard way that that's not the best way to make a decision, because it blinded me to some things that I should have seen that caused me to have pain in those particular roles. But I was so focused. I was like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I wanna do. And I'm going. And then when I didn't get to the CISO role, and we can talk about why a little later, but when I didn't get there, I had a midlife crisis or a career crisis. How about that, career crisis? Yeah. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And I realized that I was chasing a particular title too much, that I was losing myself in trying to chase that title, because the people that sat in those roles that I watched and I saw, I'm like, there is no way that I'm that person. I'm not her. You know, the cutthroat, the stabbing in the back, the politics. I'd see, listen, we got work to do. And I'm your girl if we're about to get some work done. But all the other stuff is just fluff. And so I found out about myself that, no, not going to be able to do that. And so I became a CEO and just skipped the CISO piece.
Were there like some warning signs that you saw?
About the people in those roles?
Well, about the pursuit of that particular title and figuring out what was and wasn't working.
Well, you know what? I find that when I chase stuff, I get off balance. Yep. And if I just stop and work on myself, things usually come to me because it becomes clearer, right? So when I was going from one job to the other, and it was unsatisfied because I was pursuing a title and not the right fit culturally.
Yep.
And that's what it was like. I was so concerned and focused with establishing checking the check boxes.
That's the goal piece,
that's
right? Because that's exactly it. When we set up these goals and we're going after them, we get blinded to one, is it really still in alignment with who I am and what I want? Right. And secondly, what other opportunities are out there that you might be not seeing? Because right there, you're in that tunnel, right? That's my goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. Goals are, I'm not saying that something that you strive for isn't important. We all need some purpose, something to align with. But having an intention and a goal are two very different things. Yeah. The goal is, this is the outcome, that's my finish line. But the thing is, we all know there is no finish line.
Yep.
There is no finish line, right? It just keeps going. So the question is, when you're going towards something, have the openness that, wait, maybe if there's something even better that's staring me in the face here, why not? Yeah, man, we go on and on for this one. This is big. Well, but the intentionality and understanding where it comes. Remember that word title. And in the world of cybersecurity, there's a lot of titles, right? Blue team, red team, purple team, ethical hacker, chief ethical hacker, CISO, vCISO, CISO, you name it, it just goes on and on. But you got to realize that those titles, when you look at it, take a look at what's happening in that situation and make sure that it aligns with your core values. And I love the North Star. We do that same thing as well. In our company, we have a North Star where we have a plan. Here's what our values, here's what it is. And anytime someone's way over to the left, we can go back and say, does it align? And if it doesn't, we don't do it.
It's really that simple. No arguing, no nothing. You just, this is where we go. And that works out very well. The last piece is, before I want to make sure we get some questions from the audience, is in this world of cybersecurity and where it comes from, we talk about work-life balance. But we live in this world of, it changes daily. Threats are always in front of us. 0 day, right? You know, you name it. We got a movie out there now, 0 day, right? Not that great, but it's good. It's there. But it's going on. How do you balance staying on top and keeping your knives sharp with work-life balance and life, right? That's a lot, because you have to stay on top of it. How do you do that?
Sheesh. So for me, I make sure that I join organizations such as Mike and understand from my peers what they're dealing with. And so that way I can leverage their knowledge as well as share what I'm doing as well and what I'm dealing with it and how we're approaching these things. Number two, I don't want to go there. I think I'll leave it.
Yeah.
You gonna leave it? No? What's the
Important. What you see here, the common theme is don't assume that those around you know what you're going through. You got to articulate that so they can be on the team with you and hold them accountable too and say, hey, this is for a period. Because if you don't communicate that, that period becomes very long, because now you're trying to be outside of yourself. You're trying to maintain life balance and certify and work for a cert. It's going to delay it. It's going to make it harder, and it's going to make it worse for you. So that's good. I want to open this up. We're in our last 10 minutes before this
Can
is
I
up.
just say one
Sure,
one
go ahead.
thing? Is no one has it figured out, by the way.
No.
One of the things that is a common misperception among high achievers is that I should be able to figure this out because everyone else has figured this out. The only thing is you don't know that they haven't figured it out. So just know that this is something that there's no blueprint for this, right? You just have to muddle along, and it's an experiment.
Yeah.
You find out along the way what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
But spending time in conference and talking, this is where it comes from. You understand? Because in this industry, you can feel like I'm the only one going through this, but you're really not. You got to talk to everybody. So any questions from the audience? Anything that you want to cover? Anybody got any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my question is basically, we all have parents, right? Our parents work in team, and they look at,
Can you speak up a little bit.
okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna come down.
Yeah, so my question is about our parents. Our parents work their duty, and we see them every day. They work hard. You know, some of them become successful, some of them didn't, and some continue working past the retirement age. And in that household, we see that every day. And basically now we go out in the workforce and we believe we want to mirror that image. How do you find yourself, how did you transition from your parents' image to your image? And would you expect, or you expected to go back and say, hey, slow down, you need to change that?
I think that's part of the values, but with my parents, they worked hard manually. I work hard intellectually, and it's just a difference. I still have the same work ethic, meaning I'm still gonna go hard, right? But I just have the pleasure to have be in the profession that doesn't require me. To my dad, $50,000 is a lot of money, was a lot of money, God rest his soul. Did I ever think I would get to the point where I'm paying $30,000 for food? Y'all better eat all that food, by the way. Just for 4 days? No, I never thought about that. And so it's still it doesn't stop me from grinding, it doesn't stop me from continuing to work hard, but it's just understanding there's a difference. Now I think we, as minorities sometimes, as Anjali pointed out, we keep our head down and we keep working and working and working and working and think we're gonna get recognized. And then we get upset and then y'all get to calling me about why you can't get the promotion that you're looking for. And that's when you finally realize, or at least hopefully, boom, that work ethic that our parents had doesn't quite translate in these corporate spaces. because they will use you up. If you go 100%, they gonna take all 100%. What conversation did we have yesterday? I can't remember what speaker said it, but you know, a corporation is only as loyal to you as that next paycheck.
Yep.
Yeah. Mel said it.
Yeah,
And so why are you working hard like that when Chad ain't? I see you, D. I see. That's D reference right there.
I wanted to share a little story about that. So I don't know if any of you have heard this. There was somebody cooking one day, and they cut off the end of the pork roast and put it in the pan and put it in the oven. And their child asked them, "Why do you do that?" He said, "I don't know. My mom always did that." And so the child asked Grandma, "So Grandma, why did you do that?" "I don't know. Great Grandma always used to do that." Turns out the reason was that the pot that Great Grandma cooked in was too small. So she had to cut off the pork roast to put it into the pan that was, in order for it to fit in the pan and put it in the oven. So one way to answer that question is that when your tools change, when your resources change, when your reality changes, it's not a betrayal to do things differently. And that's one of the things to come to terms. Like, first of all, is that sense of me doing something differently than how my parents did it. Is it somehow a betrayal of what their legacy? Number one. Number two, there's no shame in doing something better and smarter than the knowledge and resources that your parents had then.
No, that's good stuff. A lot of it comes from a perspective I look at it as we have an opportunity with resources and things that our parents didn't have. The networking and how it comes from 401ks, all the things we have that can shorten that to be able to take advantage of their resources. We're going through a situation in our family right now where I'm from Oklahoma, and I had an insurance guy who was selling my grandparents insurance for the last 50 years. But when they finally pass away, they barely have enough to bury themselves. And because they thought that that's what was going to be and that benefit came, but it never happened. Now we're educated enough to know that we got to do something different. So it doesn't betray, and I agree, it doesn't betray them to do something different. We have different resources, different opportunities to take advantage of it, to shorten that down so that we're not working till we're 65, 70. We can do it earlier. So it's all good, for sure. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, thank you. Don't get mad at me. But I have a different, I guess a slightly different perspective. I know we love talking about that work-life balance, right? And when you're younger, excuse me, you have more energy, right? You take advantage of the time that you have, right? As you get older and you start transitioning, you are definitely gonna make sure you didn't lose sight of what your hobbies are and your things were. But in order to get where you want to get, because I get asked it all the time, how did you get where you are? And there were things that I had to sacrifice. And I'm not saying that we sacrifice everything, right? But sometimes, like for those of us that grew up that had to go outside, you had to clean up before you went outside. You had to do your work to earn the play, right? So we love talking about work-life balance. Some of us, we're still working because we don't yet know that skill set well enough, right? So sometimes you're still inside learning. Did you set up that sandbox? Did you set up that network and you know how to work around it and now you can go outside and play? So it's not about the work-life balance, just have you earned your play before you run outside.
Awesome. Probably got time for one more question. Anyone?
You said what? I was, but Aisha, I'll tell her later.
So if nobody has any questions, I want to say something for the individuals that's around my age. So my mom just recently retired maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and she's constantly going on cruises and having Amazon boxes delivered. I'm like, ma'am,
She earned the right to play.
she earned the right to play.
Yes,
I said,
yes.
well, you're spending up all your money. What are you going to do when your money's gone? She said, spend yours. Excuse me? Spend my money? No. But I'm saying that to say that our parents sacrificed a lot for us to be where we are. And we should spoil them, and we should show them that their hard work paid off, right? And so as you're thinking about the legacy that your parents have left for you, think about also the sacrifices that they made and what you can do for them in return.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah, my mama loves spending my money too.
yes, yes.
Going on trips. Yep.
So as we close it out, just any parting words, anything you want to give to the crowd, just to say, hey, here's to think about on that topic we're talking about: work-life balance, financial balance, legacy planning, whatever that is.
Well, health in all facets are important. You guys know I have those 5 pillars of health and wellness, which is why we're going to do some physical training. We're going to do some self-defense tomorrow. But all that to be said is give yourself the grace enough to know that you're just trying to figure it out like everybody else. That's my parting words.
Yeah.
For me is to ensure that you make connections here. Everyone has been at some point where you are now, and leverage their knowledge so that you continue to learn and grow and not make similar mistakes that they did when it can be avoided now.
What I would say is you can't get it wrong. If there's one thing you take away from this, you can't get it wrong. No matter what you do, no matter what choices you make in life, the road's going to lead you to home. I firmly believe that. Having made tons and tons and tons of mistakes in my life, having fallen down many, many times, you're always going to find your way home. And that's the growth, and that's the journey.
No doubt. I look at it as community, especially in the cyber world or in IT as a whole. It's kind of like a big church. There's someone either just coming out of it, about to go into it, still in it, in it but don't know they're in it, but they need you to do it, and that's how it works. Please build relationships, because that's where it all comes from. Not just connections when I need something, truly build relationships. Make it intentional, okay? Thank you very much.
Pay
Thank
those
you, Pamela.
tithes back to Mike when you get them.